was a type of book that readers gravitate towards, fiction book readers, when they're looking for escapism. Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another video. Today on the channel, I'm going to be doing a review of the book, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. The 7-Year Slip. So, The 7-Year Slip, I feel like it's a contemporary fiction book with a definite fantasy twist. And it's also a romance book, so it crosses genres in that respect. The premise of the book, there's a young woman named Clementine who inherits a New York City apartment from her aunt who has passed away. And the apartment, it contains some sort of portal to the past, and it allows Clementine to connect with someone 7 years in the past, so that's kind of a take on the name, the 7-year slip. Like the apartment slips her, through time 7 years ago, right? And you had a very close relationship with her aunt. They traveled a lot and did a lot of things together, and she would spend summers with her aunt there in New York City in that apartment. And her aunt would tell her that the apartment was magical, and she kind of alluded to that happening, with to her in the past, the aunt did, telling her that I went 7 years in the past or whatever. And, she was kind of eclectic and a little zany a little bit, her aunt was. So Clementine, she was entertained by her aunt, but she never really believed that that was true. I mean, come on, that sounds very unlikely, right? Well, it happens to her in the story, and the caveat is that when it happens, it only happens in the apartment. So, for example, she wakes up one day and there's a guy in the apartment, but it's 7 years in the past, right? But if she were to walk out the door, she's back to present day. So the world around her doesn't change. It's just in that apartment that, you're 7 years in the past. Okay, so the way that it happens is she meets this guy. It's 7 years in the past, and her aunt was still alive 7 years ago. She was going on a trip, and this was a friend of hers, her friend's son, and she had told him, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town," because he was coming to town to interview for a job. She said, "You can stay in my apartment because I won't be there," and he has a note and everything. So now Clementine's like, "Holy crap! Is this true? This actually happens?" Okay, and the guy that she meets, his name is Ewan, and one of the twists, there are several in the story that, kind of had me going, different emotions or whatever. But one of the twists with the guy, Ewan, is that he also exists present day, right? He's 7 years older because, when she first meets him, it's in the past. And I was totally not confused when I read the book, but I feel like when you're explaining it to someone, probably much like when Clementine's aunt was explaining it to her, it sounds crazy or it sounds confusing. But, she meets him 7 years in the past, and I don't know what the year was. They never gave a year. So for example, let's say that it's 2017 when she wakes up, she's gone back in time in the apartment, right? But present day in her timeline, it's 2024, okay? So, Ewan actually exists in 2024. I mean, he's 7 years older, and this is another version of him, but the twist is that he remembers her. Okay, I won't spoil or go into how he remembers her or any of the other, twists or things that happen. But Yeah, that's what makes it, I felt like, a really interesting story, because I've seen this type of thing done before, where the person no longer exists in the present timeline, but he's there, just an older version of himself, right? And what I liked about it is, back in 2022, I read a book called This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub, and it was one of my favorite reads of 2022. And it had a time jumping element. This woman goes to a bar and celebrates her birthday. When she wakes up, she's 16 again, that type of thing, where she had to kind of redo some stuff. And it was in that vein of traveling back to the past, but it was different in that she got to bring forward a relationship she established all those years ago. Again, it's kind of weird to explain, but I've always loved like time travel type stories where the characters seemingly get an opportunity to maybe redo something or revisit something from their past. The other thing that I just absolutely loved was the chemistry between Ewan and Clementine. Like their banter, it was so funny and cute. But also there was some serious moments where they, were able to be pretty deep with each other and kind of realize things about themselves that maybe hadn't occurred to them, just from their interactions. And that is like the same, not only in the past when they first meet, but even present when they end up, reconnecting or whatever. I also liked how the author, because I feel like this is definitely true to life. When you're younger and like and when I say younger, I mean like in your early 20s, your life just seems like there's these, infinite possibilities. You look out at the future and there's just so many things, you remain optimistic that, you could become an astronaut if you wanted to, you could cure cancer. You really have these idyllic visions in your mind, your head, your heart, whatever. And as time happens and life happens, a lot of times people lose those things as the reality comes into view, and things may not be as easy as you once thought that they were or would be, and it's just, I think age is the perfect teacher for life, right? And how it doesn't really care about your plans sometimes. So it was realistic in that way. There was like this contrast of how they were back 7 years in the past, and how, Ewan had these lofty goals and dreams of being a chef, and, he just had just such a different take on how he wanted his life to go. And then how things actually turned out. He met some of his big goals, but he just didn't have the same intention, drive, or passion, or, idealism that he had when he was younger. And I liked also, because of that this couple had to work for the relationship. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we fell in love 7 years ago and now we're still in love 7 years later. It wasn't like that, because it was a weird situation, and they technically were two different people at this point, right? I mean, technically, Clementine was the same person when you really think about it, right? Like when she went into the past, she was still 29 working for this company, this publishing house. And in her present day, she's 29 and still working at this publishing house. But I think her interactions with that young, idyllic, Ewan back in, 7 years ago, made her rethink what she did want present day. So, there was just so many layers there with this time slipping that happened. What I didn't like, I absolutely was enamored with this book from beginning to end. Because like I said, there were so many different elements, so many different genres. It wasn't just a fluff piece. It had a solid happily ever after. And, like I talked about in my last video, it has set the bar for 2024, because I feel like it was so well done. It was a type of book that readers gravitate towards, fiction book readers when they're looking for escapism, and if you like your escapism too with a little dose of reality, then it checks all those boxes, right? I feel like the ending, it was, like I said, it was solid. It was satisfying. I think it would have been cute if we would have gotten to see, and this is a very small spoiler, but if you want to fast forward 10 seconds, you can do that now. But Clementine sells the apartment. So it would have been cute to see like how the next resident ended up in that time slip and what happened to them. Just like maybe the first time they realized it happened and then maybe fade to black type thing. I think that would have been cute. You know how you get like the end credits when you go see movies, like the, not the end credits, but the post end credits or whatever. I think Marvel, they're notorious for doing something like that. I thought that would maybe be a cute idea. But other than that, like I just couldn't find anything wrong with it. And I don't know if it's me coming off such a not bad 2023, but a year of books in 2023 that weren't all that, explosive or exciting, at least until I got to the end of 2023. So maybe I had, like, my standards, I was like lowering my guard because I didn't want to be, disappointed, and then it exceeded my expectations. I don't know, but I just thought it was a fantastic book. There's a couple of trigger warnings like that I would mention. There's like a heart-wrenching scene because, as I mentioned, and as the blurb mentions, she inherits this apartment, right? So usually when somebody inherits something is because a death has occurred, right? And just the way that the author talked about how she felt about her aunt passing away. If you've recently lost someone, that may hit very close to home and spark some tears. I got kind of teary-eyed when I read that scene. There's also character suicide in the book. There aren't any details about it, no details about it, just a mention of it, right? But that can still trigger someone, and it's not either of the main characters, so that they're safe from that because they do get their happily ever after. Why you should read this book? I think that if you enjoy romance books that have a more meaningful plot, something a little bit juicier, meatier, then this is something you want to read. If you like a little fantasy mixed in with what's more or less a contemporary fiction story, it's not just all fantasy. The way that the author weaves it in, and you almost forget at some point, that, oh yeah, wait, he's from the past, or it kind of, it's not until like she goes back to the apartment, because this is the thing too. Let me step back. It's not a consistent thing, right? And even her aunt says she doesn't know how it works, but like Ewan was in the apartment in the past for 2 days, and then he was gone for a few weeks. So it wasn't like a consistent, oh, this person was there for, when she woke up, and then he was there for the next 3 years or something. No, it was coming and going type thing. So if you like stories that aren't so focused on fantasy and world building that they get to be a little, unrealistic, then this is a great book for you to kind of delve into partial fantasy. If you enjoy witty banter between characters, and I love that. I'm a dialogue person. Even when I write stories, I feel like that's my strong suit. Then you'll love this book. Obviously, if you want a book with a happily ever after, definitely a book you should read. And then also, if you like books that, how you read books that they provide escapism, maybe they're not so heavy with political or current event undertone type stuff, but they do manage, and they're not nonfiction, but they do manage to provide a gem or two, a highlightable passage or word that you're like, never thought about things that way, or oh, that makes me feel good, or oh, that gave me clarity on something. That there are quite a few of those in this book as well. Like I said, I can't say enough about this book. Started the year off with a bang. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Loved it, loved it, loved it. If you have read The 7-Year Slip, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Am I overhyping it, or do you agree with me that it was a really, really good read? Make sure that you like this video, share my channel, and go ahead and subscribe and hit that post notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future content. The year is just starting. I have some great things on the horizon, and I don't want you to miss out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.